Teachers of Reddit, when did you almost burst out laughing?
9th grade student did a report on whaling. The rubric required images on every slide and, to get their points, students needed to explain their image. Thinking that I wouldn't notice, he decided to use images of sperm whale penises. A new photo on every slide of large pink whale dicks breaching the ocean waves from all angles. I asked him to explain his images. He said, "Well, that's where you get the sperm." With a very straight face, I asked him to come in at lunch. With grave seriousness, I explained that, now that he had exposed 30+ kids to whale penises, we would need to let his parents know. So, he called his mom and, voice cracking, he said, "Mom, I put a whale penis on my slides," and started to cry. His mom talked to him about making good choices and how this might affect how others perceive him. But, later, when his mom chaperoned a field trip, we laughed and laughed. She made him tell his dad later that night, and once they were alone, his parents laughed until they cried. I shared the presentation with my boss and we thought it was so funny. How brave! How stupid! This is my most famous story in my group of friends and I love getting to tell it at gatherings. I teach kindergarten. One of my sweetest little girls, coming inside from recess, smiles and says, "Man, it's fucking cold outside." I asked her to repeat herself, and sure enough, I heard her correctly. Hard not to laugh. A friend of my parents was acting in a university play as Poseidon, who was evil and had various dastardly monologues throughout detailing his nefarious mind. Anyway, a group of school kids were sat front row in the audience, about 9 years old. In the middle of a particularly intense and malicious speech, one of them stood up and shouted, "Fuck off, Poseidon, you're a wanker." Kindergartner shoved her hand into the spinach at the salad line in lunch, held it up and shouted, "Leaves is for sheep," before throwing it in the ground in disgust. I had to walk away while another teacher scolded her for wasting food because I couldn't keep a straight face. My daughter, cutest little blonde-haired thing around 3 years old at that stage, was in her car seat behind me, en route to the creche when someone cut me off. I didn't shout, but I just leaned on the horn for what seemed like forever. When I finally let off the horn and sat back in my seat, this concerned little voice from behind me asks, "Daddy, is that guy a cunt?" I had a limited number of pencils to give out, so I grabbed a handful of colored pencils and told kids they could use them if they needed to. The one black student looked at me and said, "Oh sure," giving me the colored pencil again. We both burst out laughing. Pro tip, kids, if the teacher laughs, then you're going to get away with it. I was dropping my 7-year-old daughter off at school one rainy day. Guy in front of us stops at the very beginning of the awning with no traffic in front of him. I uttered the words "Thanks, Dick," louder than I should have, and I get asked, "Daddy, who's Dick?" A couple seconds go by, and she says, "Is it someone you work with?" I was thankful for that easy out and that she didn't really understand what I said, or at least played dumb well. Not a teacher. When I was in 4th grade here in Indiana, we were studying state history. The state flower is the peony. Teacher asks who knows, kid raises his hand and says the peonies. Teacher in class busted up laughing. It was an honest mistake and the kid was obviously embarrassed and quickly corrected himself. A group of grade 8s staunchly defending the right to retain the name of their student business with its distinctive font and orange box around half the name, Popcorn Hub. One year I had a very busy class and spent a lot of time dealing with behaviors. One of my centers was tools and nails and hammers, and the kids loved screwing and hammering nails, lots of safety talks, never had an injury. 3 of my busy boys began building forts under a table during playtime and were suspiciously quiet. However, I took the gift and used that time to support other kids I hadn't had a chance to in a while. One day I lifted up their blanket fort flap to check on them. The 3 turned to me frozen like a deer in headlights with the tools in their hands. They had spent over a week digging a hole in the wall to freedom. I asked them what their plan was when they got to the other side. There was an outside door 5 steps away, and they looked confused like they hadn't thought that far. I never thought I'd have a Shawshank breakout situation in my class. My admin and me had to keep turning our heads to laugh while we talked to the boys about their behavior. One mom considered buying her son drywall for his Easter gift. Fools! They forgot the Rita Hayworth poster.
Subscribe for more.